Hey you guys, I am Dr. Cade and I'm sitting here with Coach Cason, and today we're going to hand the reins over to you. We're going to shift the gears a little bit. We're going to talk about stress. And in filming this, we were kind of thinking about the tragedy, the trauma that people are experiencing right now in Southwest Florida. But that doesn't just seem to be, a single incident here with the hurricane, right? People are dealing with verbal and physical abuse. People are dealing with the loss of a loved one. People are dealing with bankruptcy, right? I mean, there's a million traumas that, so many of our friends, our loved ones, maybe even you personally are going through that right now. I know for us, we're going through a pretty big trauma with my daughter, right? And so, in preparation for this, what we try to do is put together the top 3 things to do if you are currently experiencing a trauma or a tragedy, right? And so the 3 things that we came up with was God, right? We talked about communication, and then we also talked about an outlet. So those are the 3 things that we're teaming you up with, Cason. So swing away, brother. Swing away. Start with God.
Well, yeah, how can you start with anything else?
Love it.
That is, in my opinion, the creator and what is making this whole show run. So if we have a trauma or a stressful situation, or if I do, I should say, that's where I go first, because I know that I can't burden that whole weight. And so when something happens in my life that's traumatic, that's stressful, and I try and burden it, of course I'm going to try. That's like a natural instinct that I think we all have. I have to surrender and I have to say, okay, God, take this, because I can't. So that's number 1, God. It's
interesting how, we all have the tendency, or the majority of us have the tendency to do the opposite. Is lean away, try to figure it out ourselves, right? And feeling more isolated and feeling more, just the weight of it all. Again, I know that I felt that personally. So any tangible things that people can do to try to connect, or what is your personal routine?
Well, personally, it's a personal relationship with God that I have, right? So this is personal. I like to get up early in the morning, and I like to close my eyes, and I like to tap in. And to me, that is feeling a presence of, not aloneness, I guess is the best way to say it. To be held. It's feeling held and feeling safe, and there's no loneliness there whatsoever. So, but there's a million ways to do that. Prayer and meditation, and we were talking about Jesus calling. The
daily devotional,
the daily devotional, the Bible. Breath work. I mean, you can go any route that is connective for you, that it's personal for you. So I think it's a personal thing, and I think it's got to be yours. Your identity. Your
consistency
signature.
Needs to be a big part of that, whatever it is. For me, every time on my way home, I'm listening to praise and worship music, or I'm trying to, bookmark a sermon and try to listen to a sermon so that I can get my head right before I walk in the door. So whatever it is for you, hopefully you're able to, carve out some time to connect and be consistent with it. And then maybe a last thing that I'll say before we go back to you on the next one of communication is, a patient gave us a book years ago that was titled God is Not Religion. And I think what you said, how you opened this up, right? Having a personal relationship is way different than going through the steps and the motions of what religion can be for some, right? And I know religion has, for me, it put a bad taste in my mouth for a little bit, just from some of the experiences that we had within the church. But it's full of loving and wonderful people. So if that's where you are finding God, then by all means, let you define that how you see fit. But excited to see what people come up with there. So next one, Cason, was communication. So what do we mean, what do you mean by communication there?
Well, hey, I mean, my mind goes right to communicating with God. Because that is the way to not be alone. Again, to feel safe, to offload this burden that we feel when the trauma happens into the Creator that can handle all things. So getting that off of us and giving it to God is that's number 1 with communication. But that could be a friend, a spouse, a dog, a journal. It does not matter, but we need to get that off of our chest, because if we're trying to do this alone, isolated, we can't sustain. It's unsustainable.
Yeah, so doing whatever you can to find that person or that time or that space to communicate it and get those things off your chest is pretty critical. I think we've all felt the weight of something that just sits on our shoulders, on our chest, on our mind, and it just goes over and over and over again. And the hard part is rarely do we get to a happy spot with that.
Right.
Usually that weight just gets heavier, and that starts to permeate through the rest of our life, right?
Yep.
So again, if you're going through a trauma or a tragedy, fight every ounce in you to swallow that up yourself, right? Communicate with your friends, find somebody who's safe that you can share that stuff with.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. So God, communication, and then the last one was an outlet.
Outlet, yeah.
All right, share with them your favorite things there.
Yeah, so this gets back to communication, because communication can be an outlet. Again, we're trying to get this burden off. So, a journal, a practice of prayer, a practice of meditation. Breath work is a great way to calm our nervous system down and get into the parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and digest nervous system, so that we're not feeling so stressed. Exercise, movement, getting into our body and moving, yoga, sweating, just a sauna, any kind of healthy outlet that's not turning to something to numb the pain, with alcohol and drugs and pornography and all the stuff that's out there that is tempting for us to go to so that we don't have to feel.
Things that will short term help the symptoms, right, but long term really make that problem worse.
Absolutely.
Right, or potentially create lots of other problems. So how about for you? Do you have something really fun that you like to do that gets your head off the weight of the world and lets you feel free? And
I like movement.
Yeah.
I like sweating. So I like to run, and when I get out there and run, sometimes the juices start flowing, and then I want to scream, or then I want to try and lift something really heavy, and so movement's my go-to, and I would say meditation and journaling too. Like when I am feeling still, I can always go to writing, and that seems to help me to offload. Yeah,
I love it. For me, it's play. I got to get out and play, whether it's pickleball or whether it's basketball or throwing a football around or trying to skip some rocks, whatever it is, right? Playing with my kids, just making something dumb. But it does a great job at just getting rid of that weight and clearing my mind. And sometimes I can problem solve a little bit different that way. But
cool. Things come to you.
Right?
Yeah.
It's amazing what can happen when you play. And that, we kind of talked about that, changing some of the vagus nerve tone that helps your body adapt to the stress. It doesn't do anything about changing the stress, but it helps your body adapt to the stress of what's ahead of you a little bit differently, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you look at children and they're playing all the time, and their vagal tone is pretty spot on. They're happy all the time. Not a lot of sad kids. So they play, and we need that in our lives.
Or when you find them playing, a lot of times they're singing or humming or something like that, right? Where they're multitasking, their brain is even further off the stresses that that they're dealing with. But they're toning their vagus nerve and helping their body adapt better, so which is cool. So we can always take notes from the kids, but there are the top 3 things to do if you are experiencing trauma or tragedy. And if you're struggling with number 1, number 2, or number 3, know that our door here at LifeStrength Health Center is always open. We always offer a free 15-minute consult where if it's too much to drive here and you're dealing with the stress, we can always hop on the phone and do our best to individually point you in the right direction. So anything else you want to say, Cason?
God, communication, and a healthy outlet.
Love it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.